Man, I just went on a little journey. That was amazing. That was incredible.
Thanks for going with me.
Willi
Thanks,
Carlisle. Willi Carlisle, live and in person here at eTown. Man, oh man, it's hard to know where to start, but I might as well ask you a couple things about your introduction to the world of words and songs and music and instruments. Is that something you started when you were a young person?
Not by choice. My dad was in bluegrass bands, but they were a dirty secret by the time I was a kid. So he would sort of talk about tuning up, and those, for the people on the radio, should know that I'm making a marijuana smoking gesture, and like partying and stuff like that in bluegrass bands in Kansas. And so as soon as you find out that something is forbidden and you're not to know about it, well, then we started playing the records all the time. I turned to it when I was around 18, actually playing though.
Yeah, that's cool. But bluegrass is a dark pathway to to an uncertain future.
I've enjoyed that uncertainty.
And I was just sort of describing your journey as just learning from your songs and just listening to the words and the lyrics and some of the things you've written, just how it seems to me, I mentioned that you're sort of used to living outside of any particular category or box or tribe and navigating your way as an outsider in a way, but also creating your own community.
Yeah, I've never wanted to be in a club that would have me as a member, and I found that most clubs just kick me out after a while anyway. So, yeah, it's been really cool to see this thing, what thing I'm doing take off just a little bit, and it's really been like, $10 at the door at a time, like a little club show at a time. And so, while I say I don't have any community, what I will say is that anybody that takes a chance on, paying for a ticket on, on a Monday night to see an unknown folk singer, it kind of is the community, and we build it kind of one show at a time.
Sure, yeah. And you. And I know there have been times in your life where you were living pretty close to the bone.
Yeah, I'd hate to exaggerate it because it's like a huge failure of liberal democracy that we can't house everybody. But I was fashionably homeless for a while. There's a fine line between having to do it and choosing it when you're a musician. What do they call a banjo player without a girlfriend?
Homeless.
Right. So I spent a bunch of time not quite knowing where I was at, but honestly enjoying, floating on the wind beneath the wings was, the music itself. So.
Yeah, right. Well, listen, I think it's a beautiful trajectory, but I also don't want to pay short shrift to the fact that there's some potent ideas that you're circulating. That this sort of late-stage capitalism and the injustices in the world and the judgment that's out there are all things that you are both experiencing and chronicling.
Yeah, I think it's Woody Guthrie used to say that it was the job of a folk singer to comfort disturbed people and disturb comfortable people. And I don't know that we get enough. I'd be hesitant to call it the bluegrass industrial complex or whatever. But it's nice to try to bring that in. One of the crazy things about that is we're kind of living in a world where neoliberalism has won, in a way, and then there's these little patches of freedom that we can grow in our own communities, like in this room right now, where ideas can be exchanged and people with different ideas can meet and collaborate, right? I think of any little music scene as like kind of holding that door open to kind of a different way of thinking.
Yeah, and folk singers have traditionally just navigated that kind of underground railroad of one club to the next and figured out word of mouth where to go and who to find. But from what I understand, you've traveled in Europe. You've also I don't know where in your journey your sort of sexual evolution took place or transformation took place or whatever you describe it.
Great question, yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about being an outsider, right, and kind of choosing ways of finding those differences, I guess, or finding whoever. I guess what I really mean, Willi, let me just say this other way. it's dangerous to be really open to what's going on in that moment. It can be dangerous if you're really open.
Oh yeah, if you're, if you're a tall white guy and you're not choosing to live in danger a little bit, well, then you're probably too comfortable. Which is to say, I was told that growing up in the Midwest, I was told that being able to love anybody was a liability instead of a superpower. And it's those little outsiders, it's the people with a crazy way of thinking, it's the people who are comfortable enough with themselves to say who they are despite any little bit of danger that have kind of held the door open for me, and to make it into ideally a superpower instead of a liability to be able to love anybody.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. And I love the fact that one of your sort of true north artists that you have gleaned some inspiration from is Utah Phillips, who was a frequent guest on eTown and somebody we get to spend a lot of time with, and someone who also thought about presentation as well as messaging, and of course songwriting and music too.
Yeah, what giant clown shoes to step in, to try to fill. Utah Phillips was like a good anarchist in so many ways. He used to say he wanted to make a living but not a killing, and I love this idea that in any endeavor there's a way to have just enough, and that just enough is like as good as wealth in a lot of ways. I struggle a lot with Phillips, and that's why I love him so much, because if you're a really, really principled person, like he was in a whole lot of ways, then boy, it's just hard to live up to all that. I think that's one of the great reasons to be a folk singer. Why I'm really honored to be a folk singer is that it's impossible to live up to the standard of the firebrand ideologues that have come before you. But boy, you could spend your lifetime trying and hopefully do something good with that.
Yeah, and but what I notice, as opposed to somebody that's like Woody Guthrie or somebody that's sort of carrying the tradition of just being a singer and a musician, you, like Utah Phillips, introduced an element of theater into your presentation. You're wrapping the song and the message in an experience.
Yeah. I hope so. I kind of always liked the glitz of showbiz, and actually I was just thinking about this a ton. I played the Opry last week, and it was sort of like, no, thank you though. But it was like, well, they got the wrong Willie, it was an accident. Truth be told, I kept thinking about how so many people that are clowns have been on that stage, right? And that so much of the way that country music has been defined was by people that maybe wanted to wear suits but were asked to wear overalls, So it's complicated donning the costume and also learning from like the true originals. I think every day about how to both be theatrical and draw from a tradition of vaudeville that goes directly from, it's like a straight line from like European clowning traditions into like minstrel traditions in the United States, which is if that feels problematic, it totally is, directly into vaudeville, right? And then also trying to mix that with people who have maintained their family or their culture's music for a couple hundred years against the tides of the radio and everything that tried to destroy anybody's kind of local or immigrant culture.
I guess what you're just talking about, because I kind of lost the thread for a minute, but I think I think you were talking about something like the Savoy family living in Eunice, Louisiana, that's protecting a 200-year-old musical culture that they're hanging on to, as opposed to being watered down by a popular culture.
Right, and there's always kind of a mix of both things, and I find that mixture engaging, potent, intoxicating.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. I just spent a couple weeks in Ireland with Joel Savoy, who produced the record just before this last one of yours. And then, of course, Daryl Scott produced your latest record, and he's a frequent guest here and somebody I used to tour with, and he made his most recent record here in these studios. But
oh, cool.
You're in the gang, man, and it's great because I've been hearing about you from people who are not in the mainstream, but people whose opinions and ears I really respect. And you've never heard of them because they're all homeless. And no, I didn't mean that. They're just. But no, really serious folks have been telling me about this guy, Willi Carlisle, and so I'm glad we get to meet, hang out.
Thanks.
Yeah, glad
it's an
you're
honor
here.
to get to work with people I've admired my whole life. So thank you.
Wow, thanks, Willi. Well, let's hear some more music.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Welcome back, Willi Carlisle.